Hello! For a really long time, I've wanted to do animation, but I never really felt good enough to do that. So, today, we're going to be avoiding that by making a background for my new cartoon.
I want to make a cartoon, but I can't animate. I can kind of draw, but I can't animate. I've always wanted to learn how to animate, but 2D animation comes with a big challenge in that you have to first know how to draw. And 3D animation is its own beast in and of itself, with having to rig your characters. I have thought of thousands of ideas that have never really made the light of day, whether it be animating, drawing, or recording a video. In terms of animating, I don't think I currently have the drawing skills to make something that I find to be of quality to go on YouTube. Personally, it seems like a really difficult process. I think I've found a small workaround that'll make this animation process a little bit easier for me. But first, let's talk about how the idea for this cartoon actually came about. So here's the story of how the idea came about. Back at college, I was on a Discord call with my friend Will. Both of us are rather creative people, and we started talking about something that we could do together. I knew I wanted to do YouTube for the summer and was crafting ideas for videos. Will is a musician and wanted an outlet to make a song. We were goofing around and started talking about our friend, who we call Zelos. Zelos is a goofy guy, and we, very lightly, make jokes about him being a cartoon character. For example, Zelos the kind of guy to be duck hunting, and right before he walks into a low-hanging branch, someone yells, "Duck!" and he says, "Where?"
Zelos the kind of guy to be like, 1, 2, buckle my shit.
Zelos the kind of guy to get stranded on an island with some friends, and when he gets really hungry, he starts seeing them as chicken wings and pizza.
Zelos when he's mad. I'm gonna wreck it. Cannon Zelos and then falling into a hole when he was younger, like the Dark Knight, like Bruce Wayne falling into like the pit with all the bats in it.
Zelos the kind of goofball to do this during dodgeball.
The fucking Kick Patowski clip.
Yeah.
Zelos the kind of guy to close the door with his hips.
Zelos the kind of guy to have a mom tattoo. Zelos the kind of guy to have thought bubbles appear when he's thinking up a nefarious plot.
Zelos the kind of guy to be like, guys, speed up, I like my pocket sushi in, and this shark's looking hungry. Zelos the kind of guy to eat lollipops, like Mr. Owl from the Tootsie Pop commercial. Zelos be like, we're blasting off again.
Yes, these are all things that we said, and these are only the funny ones. We decided that we could absolutely make a cartoon where he is the main star. Without giving too much away, the basic plot is that Zelos is going job to job, trying to make a living, and getting fired because of the wacky things that he does that affects the people around him. So now that I have this idea, how am I going to execute it? Making a cartoon takes a lot of work, and I'm only just now realizing that. For this episode, I won't be able to show you anything substantial. I wanted to show what the first thing you would see would be. This episode of the cartoon is going to take place at a diner/train station. Don't ask. So while you watch this time-lapse footage of me creating the environment, I'm going to talk a little bit about the logistics of creating a cartoon. All by myself, by the way. So yeah, this has pretty much become one of those time-lapse videos. I originally wanted to create the environment in Blender like you see here, and then I wanted to draw the textures in Photoshop and then project those textures onto the geometry in Blender so that I can get the realistic lighting as well as the really cool drawing art style, kind of like Arcane. That's kind of what Arcane does. I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but I did make an attempt at doing that and it just didn't work. Sort of because I went a more low poly style with the Blender creation, and then in the drawing I went for like a higher detail look. So the high detail drawing didn't really fit. It sort of wrapped too hard around the original models. I found it easier to just render out the Blender scene by one perspective and then draw over it. So I will have to redraw it every single time I want to change the angle. But honestly, I think that's okay, because if I'm gonna have a farther away camera, then the details should be smaller, less visible, while if I have a really close-up shot of a certain part of the diner/train station, then I'm gonna want more detail. You can also probably see from the time-lapse that this train station diner is a real place that me and my friends go to, which is why I decided to choose this place for the first episode. So I took a bunch of pictures and I put it into this program called PureRef that just lets you make a collage of photos, and I used those as reference for creating the Blender model. Honestly, creating the environment was like the easiest part, and then having to actually go into Photoshop and draw over everything, that was the challenge. Essentially making it look good was the hard part. What you can probably see from the time lapse is that I'm using Pinterest a lot, and this is sort of a new thing that I've been getting into. I don't really use Pinterest all that much. It's really helpful with developing certain ideas in terms of texture, form, and color. I definitely wouldn't have been able to make the drawing look as good if I wasn't using Pinterest to guide me through how things are supposed to look. So let's talk about the cartoon stuff, right? So the concept came pretty easy to Will and I, who created it. We basically, in our laughter of making fun of Zelos, we created a pretty imaginative world. It's pretty expandable because it's so close to literally what a cartoon is. I mean, that was the vision that we had, was that this person would be in a cartoon. So all of the ideas that we came up with were very cartoon and humorous-like, so the concept came super easy. As well as the script making. I was writing the script as we were talking, and I did go look at it after we were done, like laughing, and see if I could clean it up in terms of a storytelling perspective. The Harlequin actually helped me out with some finer details in terms of like, hey, I know this is funny, but does it actually work in a storytelling sense? And I did develop it not purely as a joke, just as like, oh, let's do this stupid thing. Then I don't know if I have a picture of it. I still haven't been able to find it, but I did storyboard not the entire episode, but most of the episode, because I realized that I just cannot draw perspective at all. It's just, I haven't worked on it enough. So they came out really crappy and didn't really give me an idea of what exactly I wanted, but I'm sure I'll find it. All of the scenes are essentially in my head. I do have a checklist of all the scenes that I want and what perspective and a description of each scene or each shot, but I don't have like a physical like drawing of any of it yet. In terms of the character design, I did also design some characters, but it just really wasn't the style that I wanted or what I was going for. I wanted something a little bit more stylized. I tried to go for like a really shapy, like very, very shapy looking design, and it just wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was the only thing that I could do. And this is where the little trick up my sleeve came. I still haven't executed it, so I still could be completely wrong, but this was my thought process. I don't want to go into Blender and create a 3D model of each of the characters to rig and animate them like that. That just sounds like a lot of work for what is essentially just a joke. And then in terms of doing 2D, I would have to put the 2D characters into Blender and animate them from there, which also sounds like a little bit of a hassle. I wanted to be able to animate in Blender without actually making 3D models of each of the characters. So, and this is my plan, I still haven't executed this, I want to create 2D characters in Blender and rig those up. I think that would be a lot easier. And what I mean by that is create a plane for each part of the body. So that means like essentially just a square for the hands, rectangles for the arms, a square or circle for the head, and then I can draw on those as textures individually and then change them at will in the animation. So let's say, you know, they're moving around and I want the head to change from a happy face to a sad face, then I can just change the texture in Blender. I don't think that's going to be too hard. That saves me a lot of time in terms of having to actually create the model, and also means I don't have to do like complete 2D animation. I don't think I've ever seen this be done before, so maybe that's because it's stupid and it's gonna look terrible, or maybe I'm just a very unique person. I have no clue. If you guys have any other ideas for how I could do this by myself by the end of the summer, that's my goal, then please let me know, because I'm basically winging this. Any feedback would really be appreciated. Otherwise, I think that's it. This is what I came up with. It's not like my favorite drawing in the world, but it certainly helped me kind of get loose with using a digital tablet again, and I think it looks, all right. I think I can definitely spend a little bit more time on it. But yeah, that's my idea for the introduction shot. Right now I'm just calling this kind of the concept, because I don't know if I want this to be in the final thing. This isn't necessarily exactly the art style that I want to go for, but it's kind of the art style that I have, so you work with what you can. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching my process. Remember to like and subscribe, and as always,